Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Callum, this is English Shooting, and let's get into the video. Another week, another consultation, and it looks like things are back to normal. We are once again having to fight against further restrictions and further legislation, stopping us from taking part in the lawful and safe sport of shooting. This time the consultation focuses around crossbows. They are looking to go the full hog and bring in crossbow licenses, and it very much seems as usual that it's very misguided, and the restrictions and legislation they want to bring in won't actually achieve anything. So it's a double whammy. Not only do we lose an area of shooting sports, or certainly it becomes a lot harder to partake in that area of shooting sports, but it doesn't actually keep anyone safer and just makes everybody's lives a little bit more miserable. So why would bringing in crossbow licenses be an absolute disaster? Well, all we have to do is look across to Scotland and the airgun licensing over there. Before the licensing scheme was brought in within Scotland, there was an estimated 500,000 airguns within Scotland. To date, there are only 30,000 licenses within Scotland. Unless those 30,000 license holders are owning an average 16 airguns per person, it pretty much points to the fact of hundreds of thousands of airguns being owned illegally in Scotland, and the whole licensing regime being brought in being a complete waste. Furthermore, when you look at the impact on crime, you can see that the general trend of firearm offences falling has continued, with no real meaningful drop as a result of airgun licensing in Scotland. Airgun licensing has also been greatly discussed for England and Wales within UK Parliament, and as a direct result of the obvious failure from the Scotland airgun licensing system, we've decided not to bring it in place here. To even think about bringing in licensing for crossbows, there must be an epidemic of people being seriously hurt or worse by crossbows in much greater numbers than there are from airguns. Well, the latest statistics on crossbows is that on average, one person a year is killed by a crossbow. And whilst that may be very tragic, and there are some incredibly tragic stories that have instigated this review on crossbow regulation, as tragic as any death may be, having an average of one per year, bringing in an entire licensing system at a cost of God knows how many millions, when the evidence suggests that it would not work from the Scotland airgun licensing system, seems completely disproportionate. Now, I do understand there is one key difference when comparing crossbows to airguns, and that is the muzzle energy. And there is weight to the argument of saying, well, here we have higher powered airguns, they require a certificate to own. We have 2.2 rimfire rifles that require a certificate to own, and here we have crossbows with the same, if not more, muzzle energy. Shouldn't they be certificated as well? And it all comes back to the single death per year. It's just simply not proportionate. Yes, you may have something that could cause the same amount of damage, the same amount of harm, but it's just not being used in that manner to actually justify certificating it. More people are killed by blunt objects every single year. Should we be licensing blunt objects? If your main goal is the preservation of life, there are far more avenues to prevent the loss of life with other objects, with other equipment, before we start looking at crossbows. So getting into the consultation, in terms of preventing this legislation from coming in, there is only one real question that you need to answer. The rest is more focused on your experience and ownership background with crossbows. Controls on crossbows. Should there be further legislative controls around the sale and ownership of crossbows? This is obviously just a clear no. We've discussed it. It is not proportionate. It doesn't make sense. This isn't a great threat and cause of harm and death to people over the greater population, as tragic as these singular events each year are. Why do you think there should not be further controls on crossbows? Please provide any evidence you have to support your responses. I'm going to be coming at this from proportionately, is it justified, and using the example of Scottish airgun licensing of why this isn't work and it's fundamentally flawed. Should the sale and possession of broadhead arrows be prohibited with the exemptions listed in paragraph 3.2 of the call for evidence? Well, for me, that's pretty much all the justification and reason that you would actually have one of these arrows. Of course, it is illegal to hunt with a crossbow here within the UK, so that wouldn't be good reason under these exemptions. But also, with it covering pretty much every single base, why do we need to bring that in law? It would be far too easy for somebody that has a broadhead arrow for nefarious purposes to just say, oh, I'm just using it for target shooting. It's a bit of sporting equipment. Okay, well, on your way. What are you actually going to achieve with this? So for me, this is going to be a no, move on. Do you buy or have you ever bought broadhead arrows? I can't suggest an answer to this. Either you have or you haven't. I'm going to proceed on the basis of yes, because there are some additional questions because of that. Why have you bought broadhead arrows? Again, I can't tell you how to answer this question. I see no benefit in lying. They really want a good snapshot of the overall ownership and use of crossbows and broadhead arrows, and I would give them the accurate statistics on it. If the sale and possession of broadhead arrows was prohibited, do you believe any of the exemptions in paragraph 3.2 would apply to you? The same exemptions as last time, again, only you can answer that. Do you own a crossbow? You've got to answer this. Again, I would be honest with your answer. When did you buy your crossbow? Where did you buy your crossbow? No reason to answer these dishonestly. I think giving them tangible statistics around the use and certainly volume of use and where people are buying these and how long ago is all valuable to this consultation. If a licensing or permit scheme was brought into force, would you consider applying for a license or permit to own a crossbow? What they're trying to obtain here is the scope of the licensing system that they would have to bring into place and the amount of licenses that they would be issuing. We've seen Scotland get absolutely snowed under and grind to a halt because they were not able to keep up with demand, and they may be worrying about this with licensing crossbows. So personally, whether you intend to or not, and probably if you're watching this video, if you don't already own a crossbow, it probably is in your future at some point. So I would strongly recommend that you say yes. If a licensing or permit scheme was brought into force, would you consider applying for a license or permit to be able to buy a crossbow? Again, for the same reason as the slightly differently worded question previously, I would be putting yes to this. Do you use a crossbow for any of the following? For this, I would go back to your own personal answer and answer the question honestly. Do you manufacture, import, or sell crossbows and ancillary equipment? This really is only going to apply to a few of you, but I'm going to answer yes again to see the other questions. As a manufacturer, please provide details of the number and types of units manufactured in the last 5 years, the number and type of units sold in the last 5 years. This could be very, very powerful because if the numbers that are put in here are very high, then it may actually scare the Home Office from entering into a licensing scheme. If they think that there are millions of crossbows every single year being sold, and therefore millions of people that are going to rush on day one to get a license, it may make the project completely unviable. Would you continue to manufacture crossbows if a permit or licensing scheme was brought into force? Anybody that is making it this far because you manufacture crossbows is probably going to tick yes, with the reasoning for their answer because of the investment that it takes to start producing crossbows, to start manufacturing them. Entire businesses could be shut down overnight. If you have any other comments, please enter them here. If you would like to add supporting materials, email it to crossbows@homeoffice.gov.uk, which I think potentially is the best email address I have ever seen, with your name and address. For me, I think we need to stick to the point here about, is it justified, is it proportional, bringing in certification or licensing, and from what we've discussed, it's not. And also, would it be effective? Based on the Scottish airgun licensing, I would say it's not. But feel free to add your own comments, anything you feel is important to add. The final section is about your personal details. I know a lot of people do get a bit hung up on this and don't want to give out their name or association to any answers. Look, this is the Home Office. If you're worried about them knowing things about you, it's already too late. So I would have no problem putting in correct details here, and certainly fabricating any details like names and email addresses may even void your submission. So do answer this section honestly. And that is the full consultation. For most people, it's going to take about 30 seconds to complete, maybe a little bit longer if you manufacture or sell them, but it's not going to be that much time out of your day. I cannot stress how important it is for us to have our voices heard. We really can make a difference, and we've seen it time and time again. The differences we can make and the dangerous consequences of not submitting responses to consultations. Links to this consultation will be in the comment section and description below, so please do go through and click it after this video and submit your entry. You don't have long until the deadline. If you have any questions at all about it, then please use the comment section below. I will do my best to get back to every single one of you that has any questions or anything that you want to say about it that you think's important. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you found it useful and informative. Please do give a big thumbs up and make sure you are subscribed for any future content. And of course, as always, guys, I hope to see you soon.